Hello. How are you doing today? Happy Monday. I hope you are well. I have been away for a couple of weeks, which has been a welcome break. I needed a little bit of time away from the computer and it's really helped. So I'm feeling really invigorated and ready to share some awesome stuff with you over the coming few weeks. So today we're going to talk about some small adaptations you can make to your practice to help you achieve consistency in your regular practice. But before I go into that, I just wanted to remind you to give me a little thumbs up if you are watching this video, or perhaps you can give me a little heart symbol if you are enjoying it, or otherwise you can tag a friend or share this with your friends if you are enjoying what I'm going to talk about today. So thank you so much for joining me. We're going to be talking about how to make small adaptations to your practice to help you keep it consistent. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is something that I was working on a little bit on my break, actually, was thinking about how I can keep my practice going at the weekends. Now, for me, I have got a pretty good practice during weekdays, Monday to Friday, and it's something I've been developing over a long period of time. It's not always perfect, but generally I'm pretty good at sticking to it because I've got quite a good routine during the week, Monday to Friday. Whereas at the weekends, it used to be kind of pre-COVID, before lockdown times, I'd often be quite busy at weekends as well. Sometimes I'd be out and about and I'd be used to having to fit in a movement practice around that, or perhaps I'd be teaching, or perhaps I'd be taking workshops with someone else. So I was kind of getting in my movement practice when I was doing this stuff at the weekends anyway. However, since lockdown, I've been at home every weekend, obviously, as most of us have been, until perhaps fairly recently when things have opened up a bit more. And my usual routine when I'm at home is to get up a little bit later than usual and go and sit in my favourite cup of chair, and usually my lovely fella will make me a cup of coffee, which is my favourite way to start the day. But often it will happen that I'll get to a bit later on in the day and I'll realise I haven't done anything to help nourish my body, and there's always that little bit of resistance, certainly for me. I don't know if you find the same thing, but as the day goes on it can be a bit more challenging to get up and do something. And things were starting to fall by the wayside a little bit at the weekend. And I really believe in consistency, and even if you're not doing an intense practice, and we'll talk about intensity in a little bit, every day it's important to keep your body nourished and keep it moving every day in the same way that you would eat food every day, right? So what have I done to help to combat this? What I've done is I've set myself a little rule, and I am not allowed to have that morning cup of coffee until I've done a movement practice of some kind. So sometimes it might be quite a short one. That's kind of like my bare minimum, getting my greens in for the day, my movement greens, as it were. And sometimes if I'm feeling like it, I'll do a little bit longer before I get stuck in to the coffee and reading what's going on in the news, or reading a book, or whatever it is I'm going to be doing. And so far it's going okay. I'll be honest, I haven't stuck to it every single time, but it's certainly a good way to keep me motivated, and it gives me a little bit of a reward for having done the movement practice, and something to work towards. And yeah, it's like I can't have my coffee until I've done a little bit of practice in the morning at the weekend. So I was saying there was four things that can help you if you are finding that you're struggling to keep consistent in your movement practice. If you want to also try and develop a daily habit of moving your body every day to nourish your body, to keep it feeling good in the same way that you would eat 3 meals a day, or, you know, however you like to eat throughout the day, you know. So the four things that I tend to notice, or the four things that can help you with this, are thinking about time. So the time of day that you're doing the practice, thinking about the duration of the practice, thinking about the intensity of the practice, and thinking about also varying the practice as well. So, for example, let me give you a few examples. Time of day, for example, might be that you are trying to do something in the evening, and your willpower may have well depleted by then, in which case it's not fitting in and you're not getting it done, can you consider doing it at a different time of day? Sometimes I know it can be really challenging to do it first thing in the morning, but if you're looking to build a daily habit, perhaps doing something shorter in the morning, even if it's just 5 minutes on a consistent basis, can sometimes be better than trying to fit in something longer later in the day every day, if you see what I mean, because you're more likely to get to it. And then when you can get to your later in the day practices, then you can do your longer practice and make that a bit more substantial, which obviously is important for, you know, really building strength and flexibility, is to get a longer practice in a few times a week. But getting something done on a daily basis, if you can just get in 5 minutes in the morning, then you're set for the day. Thinking about duration is another thing as well, as it kind of just ties in with the previous point really. If you are trying to, sometimes it can be challenging even just to find 20 minutes, you know, in a daily basis, and particularly if it's just something that you're just starting out to do, or if it's something that you've always struggled with and you have all these ambitious ideas of doing like half an hour a day, an hour a day even, perhaps just start with 5 minutes a day. You know, because that's really, really simple. Everyone can fit in 5 minutes. It's something you can even do while you're waiting for the kettle to boil in the morning, so that you've got something else to attach it to, which reminds you to do it and keeps you motivated. And then obviously once you've done that, and again, as a link to the previous point, if you've done that in the morning, then you know you've done a little bit of body nourishment, and then later in the day you can come to a more solid, longer practice if you have the time. And obviously you wouldn't necessarily want to do that every day. And so that brings me to my next point, intensity. So something that might be holding you back from being consistent is that you're trying to do a really intense movement practice every day. And that isn't super good for us. I would say that you really need some rest in between. It's intense practices are great because they're fantastic for building strength, they're fantastic for building your fitness and for your flexibility, and they can make us feel really good as well. They can be hard work in the moment, but the endorphins that you get afterwards can make you feel fantastic. But it is really important to allow your body time to recuperate and rebuild itself in between each of those intense sessions. And sometimes you can find your consistency flagging. It can be because your body's telling you you're trying to do too much. So varying the intensity of the sessions can be a really good way of building consistency, alternating an intense session with a lighter session, a shorter session. Another day is a good way to go with it. And then the final one is to think about variation. I don't know about you, but I definitely can't do the same thing every day. That will just turn me off completely if I find that I have to do something 7 days a week. So I have a variety of different things that I'll do. Again, even within my more intense, stronger practices, I'll have a bit of variation. So even those aren't necessarily duplicated each week. And then the shorter practices as well, I tend to vary. Usually I'll have one or two that I'll alternate between each day, so that they're not always different, but they're not always the same as well. But it just gives you a little bit of variety. Number one, so you don't get bored, and so that you keep inspired to do it. And then also so that you're just training different body parts and training your body in different ways, which is really important to get a variety of types of movement in, just to keep our bodies healthy. So that was 4 ways of adapting your movement practice. As you can see, they apply a little bit to how I adapted my own movement practice for my weekends. So I changed up the time of day I was doing it, because it had pretty much slipped to later in the day, and I made sure I put it in the morning, which I know is a really good time for me to get it done, to make sure that I do it, as I always manage to do that during the week. And I mixed up the duration as well. I kind of made it a shorter practice. That was my standard practice that I have to make sure I do. It's a pretty short one. It's about 5 to 10 minutes. Usually I will end up going a little bit longer than that, but not always. And knowing that you've just got to do a short practice is a good way to get you motivated, to get you moving. Intensity, same thing here. I'll usually do a less intense practice on the weekends and do my more intense practices during the week on alternating days. But it depends how it could work for you. You could be, for example, in a complete opposite situation to me. I'm just trying to think of what's going on right now. Perhaps you're a teacher and you've just gone back to school and there's just no way that you can get in an intense practice on weekdays, but that's what you can do during the weekends. And then you can do a shorter 5-minute light practice each morning during the week just before you rush out of the door. It's a good way to mix things up, really. And then finally, variety. With my weekend morning practice, I usually have one that I'll do one day and one that I'll do the other day, and alternate them around a little bit so that I'm making sure that I keep things interesting for myself. So that's it for me today. I would love to know if anyone's got any questions who's watching at the moment. Please do feel free to pop them in the comments if you do. And if you're watching this on catch up and you have a question, please do feel free to tag me and I will try and come back to you as soon as I can. If you enjoyed this, then do share it with your friends, and you can click the link in the comments to join my mailing list if you're not on there already. I'm going to be opening up my program for new clients in a couple of weeks' time. So if you're on my mailing list, you're going to be the first to know about that. And I've only got a handful of spaces, so make sure you're on the list so you can be the first to know about that. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was useful information for you. And oh yes, I forgot to say, I'm doing an extra live this week. I'm going to be doing a Tabata Tuesday live, and it's going to be at 1:30 p.m. UK time. And yeah, come and join me. We'll do a short warm up and then we'll get right into the Tabata, which is just a 4-minute, very, very quick HIIT workout. So come and join me and get your body moving. It's a short practice, it's a little bit intense, combination of the two, but a great way to get your movement in the middle of the day if you can do so. So I will see you then, or I will see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.